You know, I'm glad that Jesus said, "Suffer not that you forbid the little ones to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven." You know why God loves children? Because they're honest. Do you know that? Lots of times you and I won't be honest to God, but kids always will. They're just like that. They don't know no better. When they're very young, they're just so innocent. They'll just say things, and you know what? Kids can say the funniest things. If you'll just, we as adults, if we'll just hush up long enough and listen to them. Do you know that? They were 3 kids riding a school bus one day. You know how kids will argue back and forth. And one little kid said, "You know, my daddy, he can take a piece of paper and take a pen and write some words on it, call it a poem, gets $50 for it." Other little kids went, "Wow, that ain't nothing. My daddy can take a piece of paper and a pen and write some words on it and call it a song. Gets $100 for it." Other little kid said, "Why, that ain't nothing. My daddy takes a piece of paper and a pen and writes some words on it and calls it a sermon. Takes 8 men on Sunday morning to take up all the money." They're honest, aren't they? My brother Tim, you know my brother Tim, writes most of the songs for the Greenes, and boy, when you think of his repertoire of songs, "When I Knelt the Blood Fell," "Jesus Has a Rocking Chair," and "I'm So Happy in the Twinkling of," and a lot of the #1 songs God's blessed us with. But now we still travel on a limited schedule. We don't travel as much, but Tim pastors our church. One of our church families come to Tim a while back and said, "Tim, our little boy Bert is meaner than a devil. We've whipped him. We've done everything we know to do, and he will not be still in church. Will you talk to him?" So Tim said, "Well, I'll do my best." So 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, they brought Bert to the church. Tim got him by the hand, and they walked down into Tim's study, and Tim set him in the chair, and Tim went over and sat in his chair, and they were just talking back and forth. Tim was talking to him about baseball and football and all these things, and Bert loves baseball, and one of our good friends is Andy Pettit that pitches for the New York Yankees, and Tim was talking to him about that. And Tim's got a jersey in his office that Andy signed. Said, "God bless Preacher Tim," and he's talking about it. Finally, Tim got serious. He looked over at him and said, "Bert, do you know why it's so important for you to be quiet during church?" Bert looked at him and said, "Yes." And Tim said, "Well, why is it so important?" And Bert said, "Because most people are asleep." There's another little church down home. In the summertime, a little boy, his name was Wendell Potter. That was his name. Wendell got out and took a glass quart jar and went house to house knocking on the door begging money for the preacher. And by Sunday, he had a jar slammed full of money. On Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, the choir just got through singing. Little Wendell took his jar full of money. He went walking up on the pulpit, and the preacher come over and said, "Wendell, can I help you?" Everything got quiet. Wendell said, "Preacher, I've been out all week long getting money for you, and here, I hope it'll help." The preacher took the money, and he said, "Well, Wendell, that's so kind and that's so generous of you, but why in the world would you spend all week long going home to home trying to get money for me? I'm all right." Wendell scratched his head and said, "Well, preacher, I heard my daddy Sunday afternoon say you was the poorest preacher we've ever had." Kids will say the funniest things, won't they?